Good evening, everyone. Glad to be back tonight for another podcast. It's always interesting each week that we do this. I'm starting to feel a little more comfortable, which is a miracle because I thought I was going to hyperventilate every time I've done this before. Got some really good things that have happened this week. Very excited about what's happening. Very excited about who we are becoming. I hope that you had a good week. I hope you laughed a lot today. I hope that you felt good most of the day. If you did not feel good, then we know you are out of alignment because when we are in alignment, just naturally feels good. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go hop into it. Let's go. All right. So had a very interesting couple of days. This morning, I've been kind of waiting to the inspired action would happen before I write a post. And I wrote an interesting post this morning. It was kind of how I felt, and I'm gonna put it up, and we're gonna talk about it a little bit. Uh, I was talking about a time in my life when I was thinking about something that I felt gratified for, and then when I kept thinking about it, I was like, this is rather selfish. This is rather immature, rather. But I said it was a little immature of me in retrospect years ago when I was asked what made this night so satisfying for me. And from the stage, from a live stage, I said, seeing the people who didn't believe in me having to pay $40 to watch me do what they said I could not do. I was serious that night, and I'm low key kind of serious now. That's why I said, thankfully, I have matured since then, and I put ellipsis some. And that's the truth, some. So tonight we're talking about, does it feel safe enough to succeed? And even though that post did not seem like somebody that was afraid, it's going to address some of the underlying issues that were the secrets to my quote unquote success at that time, and also became some of the biggest inhibitors for me succeeding the way that I needed to succeed. So let's see, where do I want to jump in here at? Where I'm gonna say this. When I first started doing the podcast, I was so afraid that people were gonna watch. I wanted them to watch, but I didn't want them to watch because I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I knew that eventually it would level off, but I was uncomfortable about looking like a mess until it did. I've always believed that I was a winner, but I knew the process of winning. It takes. I would do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I was shooting jumpers in the gym when nobody was there, so I could get good at it. This was something that I was choosing to do publicly. And I knew eventually it would level out, but my ego, my pride, my shame, that anxiety of people being a perfectionist and people seeing me go through the stumbles, that terrified me. So I was always afraid that people would watch, but I kind of wanted them to watch. And now I feel myself getting to a different place that I really don't want them to watch because now I know what's about to happen. Um, Success feels a certain way. I know the feeling when I get there. And I feel it coming. I feel it. I feel this new, even though I have not a lot of visual or tangible evidence to prove, I know the feeling. I know the flow of it. So now I feel bad for people who have not been watching up at this front. It makes me a little irritated because they're going to see this thing happen, but they didn't see the process of what it took to get here. They're going to be like, he just got it like that. And I don't, I really don't. I mean, these steps that I've been teaching over the last several months, you seeing me go through it, this is your roadmap to how to get there. And it's all based into this nervous system. It has been me learning how to regulate my nervous system until it felt safe enough to succeed. It's not about talent. It's not talent is important, but your nervous system is going to choose predictability that feels safe. That they're going to choose predictability, even if it's not safe, over the unknown, even though it is successful. So, regulating our emotions, learning how to align, learning how to self regulate, learning how to wait for the inspired actions, those whole steps of 1, 2, 3, manifest, identifying what you feel, regulating those emotions, right? And then waiting for the inspired action. That is all I've been doing. And I'm seeing things unfold. I'm seeing it happen. But I want you to listen to this video about, I sent this to my family group about those people who become millionaires. And we're going to listen to the video and then we're going to go and dissect some of the stuff that the brother was saying. Okay.
know someone's going to be a millionaire. Jeff Bezos once said it best. If you're not stubborn, you'll give up too soon. If you're not flexible, you'll pound your head against the wall. And what he meant was this: the people who get rich, they aren't just relentless, they're adaptable. They don't need it to go their way, they just need it to work. They'll test 20 different versions. They will fail in public. They'll scrape the whole idea. They'll bring it right down and rebuild from the ground up. You see, there's two different types of people: the ones who get attached to being right, and the ones who are obsessed with getting it right. Millionaires.
So I didn't write out I didn't type it out just the way he said it. But he said there's two type of people out there. It's the ones who are obsessed with being right and those who are obsessed with getting it right. I have always been one of those people who've been obsessed with getting it right. Now, I like to be right, but I like to get it right more than anything. Just was kind of trained that way. It was just our training. Like that one poem my mom made me learn as a kid. You know, once a task has begun, never leave it until it's done. Be the task great or small. Do it well or not at all. So fundamentally, getting things right was always a big push for me. So, but I know people who've been so obsessed about being right that they'll prefer to be right than to do it right. They'll prefer to look good than to have it done well. That's just a fundamental truth. And that's something that was kind of hardwired into me. So I always had that, but I had a whole lot of other stuff that kept getting in the way, even though that was fundamentally sound in my life. So we're gonna keep listening to what he says. Let's go back.
Don't treat failure as personal, they treat it as data. They don't bounce between ideas and hoping one sticks. They commit, they iterate, and they outlast. They're not addicted to perfection, they're addicted to progress. The real sign someone's going to be a millionaire: they don't stop when it gets messy, they stop when it works.
So let's deal with one of those things that he was talking about. That he said that they don't stop when it get messy. Oh, I always used to stop when it got messy because I didn't want to look bad. I was so concerned about what everyone else thought. I was so concerned about not looking good. So when the thing got messy, I would stop. But let me pull him back because there was something that he said.
Someone's going to be a millionaire.
Hold on one second. Let me get to
Need it to go their way. They just need it to work. They'll test 20 different versions. They will fail in public. They'll scrape.
Okay. It was the failing in public part that terrified me. Because when I did Soul Damage, it was the most public thing I had ever done. My first movie was the most public thing I ever done. And it wasn't by design. It kind of happened by mistake. I was having to learn in front of folks. So the fear of failure was ever present, but I was learning in front of people. And I did not want to fail in front of folk. But it was that thing that was keeping me on my toes. I did not have that. I didn't want to do what I'm doing tonight. I didn't want to document this process and watching you have me rewire in public. I didn't want to do that. Oh, here go my mother correcting me now, saying, "Be the laborer, great or small. Be the laborer." Okay, well, you see where I get it from. She's correcting me still, but I didn't want to do this in public. I did not want to do it, but it was the fear. It was overcoming the fear because being in filmmaking and now going to the point that we about to become a tech founder in this thing is going to be a very public thing. And if I continue to allow that fear to get in my way, it was going to inhibit everything that I was trying to do. It was going to make me self-sabotage. Remember I was saying that quote, about how I said the most gratifying thing was knowing that the people who didn't believe me had to pay $40 to see me do what they didn't think I could do. Okay, hey Taylor, Danielle. Oh, miss you. I hope things are going well in Florida. Um, I would get. I used to have to get angry to succeed. I wasn't succeeding from a place of joy and peace. I had to succeed from a place of anger. I had to succeed from a place of being an underdog. I was proud to be an underdog. I mean, I love Greatest American Hero, Rocky, every movie that had an underdog in it. I saw myself in that person, and that's the energy that I had to embody to succeed. That's what I felt safe in. I did not feel safe unless I was the underdog, because the underdog was the person that nobody believed in, and I used that negative energy to fuel me. I used people not believing in me to fuel me. But I did not, when I got to the point that I made it to the top of the heap and people believed in me, I didn't know what to do, because that didn't feel comfortable. That felt unsafe. Fighting felt safe for me because it was the one thing I knew better than anything. I had been fighting since I was a kid in one form or the other, physical, mental, emotional. I just came from an environment. If you didn't know how to fight, you were not going to survive. If you didn't know how to fight mentally, you were not going to survive. If you did not know how to fight physically in the hood, you definitely was not going to survive. So I got so comfortable with fighting that peace felt dangerous. But we're going to pull up this thing. Listen to this. I'm going to let it play for a little while, but I want you to listen to it because we're trying to rewire that we can walk in love, joy, and peace and have the success that we need without all this other stuff, this self-sabotage that's happening because our nervous system are wired to the wrong things. But I want you to check this out.
Tucker had a similar experience. Pete is the author of Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving, and he also grew up in an abusive and violent home. And he was constantly dealing with muscle tension and physical pain. But another interesting place that this reaction showed up was when he would go swimming. He'd go to the public pool and he'd swim laps, but he said he had full body flinching when he was around other swimmers. This tension and nervous system reaction was hard for him to overcome at first. So what does tension have to do with childhood trauma, you may ask? In my opinion, and Pete and David's, everything. When you're facing fear, abandonment, and terror, your body develops a reflexive tightening response. This is called armoring. Pete said, this is usually a somatic flashback to previous abuses. In my case, the startle response was instilled in me by my parents through frequent face slapping. So what is armoring? Armoring is the physical and emotional tension that survivors of trauma develop to protect themselves from danger. It was first described by somatic therapist William Reich almost 100 years ago. And
so did y'all see that? It is like the emotional wall that you build around yourself to protect yourself. And that's what anger did for me. When I started really working on myself and I started losing my anger, I started to feel naked. I started to feel like I was unprotected. You know, I am a big Star Wars fan, and I've always considered myself on the side of of the Jedi, and then you had Darth Vader, the Force, and then the dark side of the Force. But there was a line in Return of the Sith where the Sith was trying to convert Anakin Skywalker, and he was telling about that the dark side of the Force gave you power. And when when Anakin was arguing his point, he said, "Anger gives you focus. It gives you strength." And I was sitting there like, "Yeah, I know," because that's how I felt. That armoring felt protective to me, but what it was doing, it was stopping me from enjoying life because I was always, if I wasn't angry, if I wasn't armored, if I wasn't braced, if I wasn't wrapped up, I didn't feel good. That's how I directed. That's how I wrote. That's how I created businesses. I created it all from this place. And when I had to start letting that go and start letting myself open to, because if I couldn't feel the pain, if I did this because I thought it was protecting me from the pain, but what it was stopping me from, it was stopping me from experiencing life. It was stopping me from experiencing joy and love. I mean, I could not relax anywhere because I had to always be on guard because I was trying to protect myself. And my nervous system was locked in fight or flight. And I thought I was doing good because I didn't feel scared, but fight is still a sympathetic nervous system response. It's not parasympathetic. It is not peace. My prefrontal cortex was still not online like it needed to be. My body had all this tension and stress in it all the time. I mean, just muscles just locked, even when I slept. I didn't even have peaceful rest. And the more that I started doing this, the more that I started working on the healing, the more and the more I started coming through it, my body started to unravel. My brain started to unravel. My heart started to unravel. I mean, it was a physical process first. That's when start talking about somatic. When she started talking about somatic, that means talking about the body. I had to start getting medical massages because my body was fighting a lot. Because peace, love, joy, success did not feel safe. And the process that I've been going through lately is just retraining my nervous system to feel safe at peace, to feel safe at success, to feel safe in just a rested state. And now I'm gonna tell you, those who are closest around me feel like I've taken some type of medicine or something to make my mind jump and see things more clearly. But no, once my body started to relax, this tension stopped, and my mind, my heart, my body, my emotions, everything could go to the place it's supposed to be. And when I say alignment feels great, it feels wonderful. Right? We're gonna listen some more to what she was saying. Hold on one second here.
Facing a physical threat like being punched or hit, your body naturally tenses. This is a protective mechanism and it's fueled by the fight, flight, freeze response. Now, when we're in a constant state of hypervigilance, we can develop a habit of being tense, and the brain and body get stuck in a feedback loop that leaves us feeling tight and tense without really noticing it. It's like always ready to fight or run away, even when there's no threat currently present. So your body becomes constantly tense. You'll probably especially notice this in your back, in your torso, in your neck muscles, or you might have headaches. But armoring doesn't just happen with our body. We also armor up with our emotions and with our relationships. We tense up or we wall off to avoid hurt, shame, or fear. So we see armoring in 3 areas. So physical, which is like chronic muscle tension, like I talked about, a tight jaw, shoulders, chest, gut. Or posturally, you're hunched, your fists are clenched, and your breathing is tight and shallow. Okay, the second place we see it is emotionally. You might feel numb, dissociated. You might feel like you can't cry or you can't feel anything. Or you might feel the need to be compulsively busy or hyper independent. Or you just might take a very stoic stance, like, well, whatever, I don't care, let it roll off of you, right? Okay, the third place this shows up is relationally. So this might show up as hyper independence, always needing to do things on your own, or not really trusting anyone, withdrawal, being numb to others, isolating, blaming others, anger, defensiveness, basically any form of protecting yourself from caring or hurting. Now,
Did that hit with anybody? That whole thing about the emotions, even the relationships, did that? I was all of it. I felt like the more numb I was, the more protected, the more safe I was. Even when success came, I couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't enjoy it. It was like, boom, I'm off to the next thing. I was so busy. I was so ready to move to the next thing. I did not know this was a nervous condition. I didn't know that I didn't know this was fear because I had been feeling it all my life. And I remember being in Georgia and Esther laughed at me so bad. When I first started this, and I've been on this track for years. I came outside one day and I looked at the trees and I said, those trees are different shades of green. I had never seen it before. I had never paid enough attention to see that trees were not all the same colors. You hear me? I didn't see it. When I start to shift more into the parasympathetic nervous system, that's now I'm telling y'all, I've tapped into something. Okay. This is why I was saying that I didn't even I'm kind of hoping folk don't hop on now because y'all don't let me struggle through this process up until this point that I done got comfortable. But the magnet is starting to work. Do you know, as being a filmmaker for the last 10 years, I've never owned a professional camera. I remember when I told someone came to me and they said, "Hey, we need you to film this project." I said, "Well, okay, I need to check on getting a camera." They were like, "Where's your studio?" And I'm like, "I don't have a studio." Then they said, "Where's your camera?" I don't own a camera. These people literally got mad at me because they thought I was lying to them because they've been looking at the work. They've been looking at you've done almost about 20 some projects within the last 10 years. I'm always saying what you got. What you mean you don't have a camera? I didn't own a camera. I always wanted to own a professional camera. I always wanted to have it. I always wanted to have our own stuff. But we just been fortunate that we could always have access to stuff. People were gracious enough to let us get it. We would rent or whatever, but we never owned it. And it was something that we had tried to do over and over again, but stuff just wouldn't work. It just seemed like the things just wouldn't click. I didn't know what it was. It just seemed like every time I get to that point, it would stop. It would stop because I was always afraid to have it. I was afraid to have it from my experiences from my first film. We had a very, very expensive camera. And this camera and the people and the crew and the process was so traumatic that subconsciously I didn't want to have or be attached to it because somehow this is just how my brain was working. If I didn't own it, I didn't have to own it. If I did not own a camera, I did not have to own up to being a filmmaker. It ain't got to make any sense to you, but that's what the fear did for me, right? So this is how I know things would change. The opportunity came up to get a camera. I wasn't even trying. They said, "Hey, let's do it." The process was so smooth that when the camera showed up this week, I didn't feel anything really. It was just like breathing, like, "Oh, the camera's here." Before, I would have been just so excited, just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." But I definitely could believe it because it felt like the most natural thing that's supposed to happen next. That success became very safe for me. So take a look at this is a red. This is a Komodo. I think I'm saying this right. But it's the same type of camera that we use for soul damage, and we own it. We just went on and bought it, and we got it. It's ours. We're about to film it with our next project. Phil actually tested it and said, like, "Oh man, he was excited," and Phil don't get excited about anything. But what I'm saying is, I know when I'm moving to the next place because everything starts to feel natural. 2 years ago, I've been ecstatic. I've been like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're gonna get this. I can't believe it's finally happening." Everything that I have been praying up to this point is right there. And the excitement and the fear that I used to have about this, I don't even feel it. It just feels like it's the next natural thing that's supposed to happen, right? So uh, I struggled with this success because I was so afraid of leaving folk behind, or people leaving me, or people not understanding how I got here. Because I used to have this. I remember when I was in college, I really wanted to get into the advanced classes, so I started working hard. I started getting extra tutoring. I started going to people who were much smarter than me, and we were working at night, and I would have to finish my papers 2 and 3 days before so they could edit it, so I could rewrite it and turn it in. I went from being a D student to being an A student. And it started creating problems within the English department because I wasn't an English major per se. But when I started receiving awards, when I started receiving acclaim, I had one of the English teachers come to me and accuse me of plagiarism. She said, her words were, "I am disturbed that this work may not be yours." And I was like, "So what you saying?" So she was basically saying she didn't believe that I did the work because she didn't think that I was that smart. Well, she didn't think that I could have that type of growth within that time period. But I knew the work that I was putting in. And I went to some of my friends, and I went to someone who was a girlfriend at the time, who was in the English department. And I went to her and said, "Can you believe she accused me of plagiarism?" Now, she had no proof. There's a whole process that you do this. And my girlfriend at the time said, "Well, it does hurt for a non-English major to be getting all this attention." And that had been the story of my life. When it seemed like I would start to get attention for the things that people didn't see or the hard work that I had put in. But when I started to get attention, I always equated that with not being safe. I equated success with I'm going to be persecuted or someone's going to put me down. And I started to suppress who I was. I started to suppress how smart I was because I didn't want people to treat me different. Because remember, I grew up in the hood. And man, those trips to the bus stop, when you got your grades or got your assigned papers or your report cards, everybody's trying to look at them. I was not trying to let the kids see mine because kids were saying stuff like, "I hope I pass." And I'm sitting up here saying, "You hope you pass? I hope I made an A or a B." And when they would yank my report card and look at it, I just remember that being the wildest thing. They sit up here like, "Oh, you smart." And that wasn't cool for the hood. So I always kind of hid that. But if we are going to step totally into our parasympathetic nervous system, we have to be fully who we are. If the universe is going to yield its fruits to us in the fullness of what we are, we're going to have to be told who we are. And we're going to have to activate genius mode. And genius mode is not in the sympathetic nervous system. It is not in fight or flight. Genius mode is only in the parasympathetic nervous system. I love this quote by philosopher author Schopenhauer. "Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. This, beloved, is the secret that I need to share with you about your personal success. Your target is normally going to be something that nobody else can see but you. And if you need validation from all these people, if you need your mama to believe in you, if you need your friends to support you, if you do not have the conviction and the wherewithal to go for what you feel in your heart that is truly yours, that nobody else probably thinks you even deserve, you are not going to get it." Everybody looks at me being a filmmaker now and they're saying, "Well, you know something, oh man, this has been amazing. You've accomplished a great start." That was not the case when I quit my job and said I was going to make a film. But I was shooting for a target no one else could see. But in my heart, I knew it was there. And I knew if I didn't go for it now, my life wasn't going to amount to anything because I had done everything that everyone said I was supposed to do. This was the time I needed to listen to my heart, and my heart was telling me to do this. It didn't make sense to anyone else. It didn't even make sense to me. But I knew what I felt like, and what I felt like was crap. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to feel alive. I wanted to feel good. And I had to start paying attention to how I felt. My nervous system and how I felt was my GPS to direct me in the direction of where I was supposed to go. And that's what I'm trying to get you to see tonight. You have everything within you to accomplish whatever that genius level is inside of you, but you got to trust you. And you must start out by building a better relationship with yourself. And by building that better relationship with yourself, it means paying attention to how you feel. It means regulating your emotions. It means getting out of fight or flight and finding that place where it is safe enough to succeed. Genius was like too strong of a word for me because it still had too much of a negative connotation for me. So I had to play around with a definition that made sense for me. Genius is the natural, effortless expression of one's resonance intelligence, where authenticity, heart, mind, and purpose is expressed. This is not a matter of intellect. This is a matter of embodiment of who you were meant to be. When you are embodied in what you were called to be and do, that is your genius. And listen, People are not going to see it in the beginning because we're going to be looking at fruit. They're going to be looking at fruit. They're going to be looking at, well, what can I prove to you? What can I show? No. What do you feel when you do this? It's a feeling. It's a feeling. And it is a feeling like nothing I have ever felt in my life. When I stepped in front of that camera, even though my nerves were in my throat, but when it said action, it was like electricity went through my body, and it just like the whole world opened up, and I saw and felt and was something I had never been before. That's what I hope for you, man. And that's where I'm at now with launching this network, man. And I'm gonna tell you, it's a weird thing. And I'm almost to a close here. It's a weird, weird thing. You go through these laps, and I had a lapse yesterday. I was calling people, and these people were not calling me back. They were not calling me back. They didn't return my call. It was like they were ignoring me. Right? But in the same day, I'm getting international calls, international contacts about wanting to do business with folk who won't even return my call in the city. And I was like, what is this? But I remember I felt this before. It's that resonance shift. It's where my energy frequency is shifting in a different way. And it's not that these people don't care. It's just that my energy is in flux and is moving from where I was to where I'm going. Right? But I didn't know how to understand it. But now I understand it. I understand it better. I'm telling you that there are going to be moments where you feel alone. And it's not that you're being punished. It's not that you're doing something wrong, but you're changing. You're becoming something different. You're becoming someone else. And it's okay. Because that someone else that you're becoming is that someone you was always supposed to be. It's who you really and truly are. And it is scary. And I don't know if they got enough books out here to explain what's going on, but we can take this journey together. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to prove anything to you. I'm doing this because something that I said early this year. I am not the exception. I'm just an example. That's all I am. And I'm cool with that. So I went from hoping people would see this podcast to hoping only the people who are really ready to do something see it. Because I'm telling you, I feel the shift that I had been waiting on when I first started this journey. It's inevitable. Me getting this tech company, this platform being lifted off the ground, this stuff, it is inevitable. And I don't have any proof to show you, but I can feel it. And I'm at peace with it. So, I don't know if you all have any questions. I'm going to stick around for a few minutes and see if you got any questions or not. I hope you got something tonight. I know it felt different for me because, like I say, I'm in a different place and I can feel the shift. But I don't even know how to explain it. I just know I'm not afraid right now. And I have been afraid every time I've come up on this podcast for the last several months. But at this moment, at this minute right here that I'm talking, I have zero fear. That's how I know it's safe enough for me to succeed now. So let's see here. My mother said I could have been a millionaire, but your crazy nerve stopped it all. My crazy nerve stopped it all? Okay. All right. Nikki, you stepped out on faith. All it takes is that first step. That first step is important. Magnolia Productions, powerful. Thank you. My mother again. He went to his own body and they received him not. Oh, yeah, mama's gonna find a way to slide the scriptures in here, but thank God, he right. He went to his own and they received him not. And I tell you, the more and more that I study this, the science behind it, and everything else, I see. And this is not a tap for your religious beliefs. These are just mine. The more and more I look at the life of Jesus, the more and more I see a man who who exerted parasympathetic nervous system to perfection. I mean, authenticity, agency, all those things that I was lacking. We're not talking about, I'm not even talking about moral character. I'm talking about his personhood, who he was, his confidence, and who his personhood. It was unmatched. Um, and I mean, that makes the scriptures take on a new meaning for me. So, all right. I hope you enjoyed our time. Be blessed, beloved. It's yours. There's no other competition but you. If you start working in 1, 2, 3 manifest, and you start identifying where you are, regulating those emotions, waiting, which is the hardest step involved, waiting for the inspired action to happen. I'm here to tell you that you're about to see some miraculous things in your life. Stick around, y'all. I'm telling you, things are finna get really good on this end because I feel it, because I feel the shifts in who I am. And I want to thank you all for the journey thus far. And let's see what happens next. All right. Talk to y'all next week.